Hi everyone, this is Santosh Kumar. Welcome back to your next training. We are going to explore the model application. Click on the new button, and here you have several tabs. Uh, and you select the model, and you can predefine the units beforehand. You can select millimeters or inches according to your requirement. You can change the units. I'll keep this as a millimeter. Select the folder where exactly you want to save the file. As of now, I'll keep it on desktop training. Okay. And you can even change the model name if you want. As of now, I keep it as a default model 1. So this is the model UI, and this is the workspace where you're going to be creating your 3D model. Initially by default it will create a datum for you. So here you can choose the datum where exactly you want to create your particular sketches. Here you have all the tools corresponding to the model applications, and we'll be exploring each and every tools over here one by one and see what exactly they're capable of doing. And as you can see in the right hand, you have three additional tabs in the palettes. That is the assembly navigator and the constraint navigator and the part navigator. The part navigator will store the entire parts history. That is, when you create this part, what are the steps involved in this part, all the data will be captured in the part navigator. And the first one is the assembly navigator. When you're working on assemblies, there will be components. You'll be importing all those components, and all the components will be listed over here. So that is the use of this assembly navigator. And constraining is the constraints that you're going to use to arrest the degree of freedom of the component. Those constraints will be visible under the constraint navigator. So as of now, we'll toggle back to the part navigator and proceed with the modeling features. So first, in order to do the modeling, we need to select a plane and create a particular sketches so that we can perform operations on that sketch. So to do that, first you need to select the sketch. Here you have several options, whether you want on a plane or on a path. If there is a path, you can even create that sketch plane on that path, or you want to be created on a plane, then you can select the plane. As of now, I select the plane, and here you have the plane methods. Whether you want it to be an inferred plane by default it would allow you to select a plane that you or you want to select a new plane. Here you can define the plane methods, specify plane and specify vector. That is the horizontal vector. Which vector do you want to be the horizontal? You can select it, or you can even toggle between the vertical. You can select that particular vector to be the vertical. So that's the use of this horizontal and vertical. That's the sketch orientation, how exactly you want the sketch to be oriented. And the sketch origin, where exactly you want the origin to be, the sketch's origin, that also you can specify here. Again, you have all the drop downs and options available under it. So as of now, I select inferred. So inferred by default it try to allow you to select the planes. So I'll take the XZ plane, select the XZ plane, and here you have the reference. If you want, you can give the horizontal and vertical reference. This is for the orientation of the sketch. And once again, origin method point, specify by point. You want to specify it by point, you can make use of these options. As of now, I select it. I'm okay with the 0, 0, 0 coordinate, and I'll click OK. So I'm into the XZ plane. So this is the XZ plane. Now I get all the options related to the drawing of the sketch. So here the first one, you have the profile. The profile is actually used to create a continuous sets of lines. That's the use of the profile. You can even click and select the left mouse button and try to drag the mouse to the left or to the right. You'll be getting an arc. So you can draw a straight line as well as an arc with the profile tool. Now as you could notice here, there are some constraints by default automatically getting generated. Actually, you need to turn off this particular constraint if you do dimensional constraints if you don't want it. So to do that, how we going to do is you have to go to the more tab here. Once you go here, continuous auto dimensioning, you turn on this particular continuous auto dimensioning. Now you no more going to get the dimensions. So make sure that you turn off the auto dimension, or you can go to the customer default, and from there also you can switch off the auto dimension, so that next time when you open the applications you don't have to delete it manually like this. Okay, so that's about the auto dimensioning. Now next let's move on to the rectangle. This is actually used to create rectangle. Again, under rectangle you have different methods. You want by 2 point, 3 point, or center and the 2 point. You can choose according to your requirement. uh, the next option, you have a line. If you want to create a straight line, you can make use of the line command. And the next you have an arc command. This is actually used to create arc by 2 point, and then you specify the midpoint, or you can even toggle between. First you can select the midpoint and then select the start as well as the end point. This would create an arc. And then next you have circle. To create a circle, once again under circle you have a circle by 3 points, so you select the 3 points, it will create the circle. Next you have point. You want to specify a point anywhere, you can specify the point. Actually this point is in future you'll be seeing how to create holes. When you create holes, you need the help of these points to create that holes. So exactly at that particular point the holes will be created. Next you have the chamfer. The chamfer is used to create chamfers at the vertex of the rectangle or a triangle. As you can see, there's a chamfer created. Now I want to create a fillet. You select these two lines. Next to the fillet, you select this fillet. You'll be able to create the fillets. Next you have quick trim. Quick trim is actually used to trim a line. Say for example there is a line passing over another line, and you want to trim this particular line, then you can select the quick trim, select that particular line, it will be trimmed up to this particular line. And next, if you want to extend, now say for example I want to extend this line from here till here, then I can use this extend and select this. It will get extended to the next neighbor line. Next you want to make corners. Say for example I have two lines open like this. Now I have two open lines like this, and I want to make a corner out of it. Select this line, this two lines, it will automatically try to make the corners. So that's the use of the corner. Move curve. You can drag this, so you can move this particular curve. You can specify the distance and angle orientation of that particular curve. It would move. Offset move curve. So you can specify the value and then see in the preview. So it would offset after the particular curve to that value whatever you mentioned in the distance. Next you have scale curve. You want to scale this particular curve to a set value. You can specify the scale factor to twice the particular curve will be magnified. As you can see, this is 2 times bigger than the previous curve drawn. This once again you want to resize chamfer, you can use this. And here you have other tools over here under the more curve. So here you can create, you want to create studio splines. If you want to create splines with a point, you can create a spline like this. That's the use of the splines. Again you want to create polygons. You can create, you can either lock the particular radius and rotation so that it will not allow you to rotate, or the radius would be fixed. And do you want it to be an inscribed radius or a circumscribed radius, you can choose accordingly. As of now I choose the inscribed, and I will make this unlock this radius and rotation. I can specify the inscribed radius, this to be a 200 mm. So if you see this is 200, and you need to specify a point. Once I specify a point, let me clear the screen. So that's the use of polygon. Next the ellipse. You want to create an ellipse, you can specify the major radius and the minor radius. Accordingly you will be getting the ellipse. Next option, you want to create any conics, you can create a conics with this. Select the initial part, specify the end point, and then specify the controlling point. You can control it. You can create conics like this, conic sections. So that's the use of the conics. Next you have offset curve. You want to offset this particular curve by a set value. You can define the value. I want it to be a 10 mm offset curve, so this curve get offsetted by 10 mm pattern curves. You want to create a linear pattern, circular pattern, or a gender pattern, you can make use of this pattern. Select the linear pattern, select the curve that you want to pattern, select the linear object, select the number count, that is I want 10, and the pitch distance. What is the distance? You can specify those distance. Then I specify 20, 50 mm. So as you can see, there are 10 circles like this at a pitch distance of 50 mm. So this is about the linear pattern. Now you want a circular pattern, you can do the same. With the circular, select the curve that you want to pattern, specify the point about which you want to pattern, and select the origin point, and then select the angle 30 degrees. So you can see there are 12 circles at a pitch angle of 30 degrees. So that's the use of this pattern. Next you have a mirror curve. There is a curve over here. I want to mirror it above the axis. I select the curve, then select the center line. It would mirror above the axis. Now imagine there is a curve like this, and I want a point over here which is intersecting with the plane YZ. In that case, what you can do is you can select the XY plane, click OK. You're in the XY plane now. Now you select the intersecting point, select the curve. Now as you can see, a point has been created against the curve as well as the plane. So the intersection of the plane with the curve, that's where you'll be getting that point. That's the use of this intersection point. Next you want to create intersection curves. So imagine for example, we have a surface. This is the face. As you can see, the plane as well as the extrude feature is intersection line has been created. So the next is project curve. Say for example there is a curve over here at a distance, say for example the 10. I'll create a plane. Let me first create a plane. There's a 50 mm plane over here, and I'm going to draw a profile over upon that plane. Now I want this profile to be projected onto my XY plane. Then I will select the sketch and go into that XY plane, click OK, go to the project curve, select the curve that I want to project. Now this curve is going to be projected onto my XY plane. You can see the curve is projected onto my XY plane. That's the use of this project curve. Next we'll see divide lines. Now say for example there is a line. Now I select these two lines. A third line get divided. It creates a divided line between these two lines. That's the use of this divide lines. Now say for example I want to create another line between these two lines. I'll select the divide line and select these two, so I'll be getting another line between these two lines. That's the use of the divide lines. So that's about the direct sketches. And now once again the rapid dimensions. You want to give dimensions to these particular sketches. As of now an auto dimension has been applied. Let me switch off the auto dimension. For that I'll go to the more, switch the auto, and I want to give dimension to this. I can go to this rapid dimensions, select the rapid dimensions. By default it will give you the dimensions to it, or you can select the linear dimension. If you want a linear dimension, just select that particular line, you'll be getting the dimensions. So the dimensions are, you can even change the values of that dimension. Say for example 50 mm. my line is changed to 50 mm. That's the use of the linear dimension. This is radial dimension. Say for example you have an arc, you need to change the value of this arc. Select the arc, you'll be getting the radius to be 20 mm. So it's a 20 mm radius. So that's the use of the radius. Next, the angular dimension. There's a line, you want to specify these two lines at an angle. You can specify the angular dimension. Select this line and the second line. You can change this value to say 60. So these two lines are 60 degrees apart. That's the use of the angular dimensions. Perimeter. You want to know the perimeter of this arc. Select the arc, and you can define I want a 45 mm perimeter. So this length of this arc is 45 mm. Perimeter. I want the overall perimeter to be 200 mm. So the perimeter of this rectangle is 200 mm. You can check it with the dimensions. You can see 45, 55, 45, 55, 45 plus 45, 90, 200. So this is 45, 55. So 45 plus 45, 90, and 55 plus 50, 110. So total 200 mm. So the perimeters is defined. That is the use of this perimeter. Next, coming out of the so once you created all the sketch, you need to come out of the sketch. For that you need to select the finish sketch. Once you select the finish sketch, you are out of the sketcher workbench. Now here, once you are out of the SketchUp workbench, you can perform certain operations on these curves. So you can perform all these operations available over here onto these curves. Now you want to extrude this particular curve. Select the extrude, select the curve that you want to extrude. Go to, instead of inferred, select a single curve. So from this selection bar you can choose how exactly you want your selections to be. I want a single curve to be selected. I'll select single curve and select this particular curve. So only a single curve, and I can specify the value to which 30 mm means it will be extruded up to 30 mm. And here I can toggle between the sides. Do you want the extrusion to happen to the left or to the right? You can toggle it here, and the direction of the curve. As you can see, it will from the left to right. In this case, it's from right to left once I toggle. So this way you can even specify the curves orientation. So that's the use of this reverse direction. And then here in the limits you can specify whether you want to give a value that is from 0 to 30 mm, or you want to offset this itself by 30, and this is set this to 60. Preview. So as you can see, 30 mm it's offsetted. From there again 30 mm it has created this extrusion. I'll undo this. Next, you want it to be a boolean operation. What kind of operation you want to perform on this extrude? I want none, means you won't perform any boolean operations. If there are two solid bodies together, in that case you can select unite, or you want to subtract those a body from another body, then you can select subtract. You want to intersect, you want to create just the intersection of two bodies, then you can create the intersection of it. Say for example I create so I'm going to create another body, I mean another sketch here. Once I created this sketch, I'm going to extrude this, let it be inferred or connected curves, so that just the connected one will be extruded. Now I created one. Now I want to extrude this one, and I want to unite these two solid bodies together. In that case, I would select the curves. Now here from the drop down I would select unite. Once I unite, it will ask the body that I want this body to be united with this, and hence it will create a single body. So these two will become a single entity. I don't want it to be a single entity. I want to subtract one from the other. In that case I'll undo my changes. Again I'll go to extrude, select the curve. I guess I need a connected curve. I select the connected curves, and I want to subtract one from the other. I'll select subtract. As you can see, it has subtracted. I want to create an intersection, connect the curves, intersection. It will create the intersection of these two bodies. So this is the intersection of those two bodies. And keep this as none, and I want to give draft to this from start. You can even specify the draft, and you can specify the angle, so it would give a draft. As you can see, a 20-degree draft is being given to the extrude. I don't want a draft, I can keep it as none. Again, you want the offset. The entire body will be offsetted by 5 mm. Do you want the offset on one side, or you want the offset on both sides? It will kind of create a shelled component that is from in the inside as well as the outside. That the both side it will start creating the offset. I want only one side, then only the exterior. Now 10 mm means 10 mm it would offset on either sides. Now this, if you want symmetry, symmetrically it would offset. As you can see here, F8, that's the shortcut for. So here you can see it offset 5 mm above and 5 mm below. That's the use of this offset. Next you have a solid boolean type. Do you want it to be a solid? It would create a solid. Say for example, I will show you a clear example. Let me delete these. Now if I extrude this, it would try to create a solid body. See, this is a solid body. I don't want it to be a solid body, I just want it to be a surface. I just want only the edges to be extruded. In that case, what I do is I'll select this extrude. I would select the connected curves. I don't want it to be a solid, I need to be a sheet. Then as you can see here, it's hollow, so it will going to create just a sheet. So this is just a sheet. So that's about it. And this is the tolerance. By default it is 0.01. Sometimes when you create the profile, I mean, when you try to extrude such close profiles, if there is a small gap over here where you cannot fix that particular gap, and you want it to neglect those gaps, in that case you can set the tolerance as high as possible, so that it will try to ignore that particular small gap, and it will try to create a it will try to create the extrude, or else an error message would be popping out. So if you want to avoid such error message, you can play around with this tolerance value, so that you won't get that error message. It try to ignore even though there is a small gap. So that's about the extrude. Next we'll look into the revolve. And revolve, once again, here you have the similar kind of an option that's available in the extrude. Here you select the select curve. You want to select a curve, the entire curve you want to select, or you can even select a single curve. I select the single curve, and I want the vector. I select this as my vector, Z as my vector. So it will try to create a revolve section out of it, and specify the point. This you want to specify the origin point. Where exactly you want the point to be specified. 0, 0, 0. In my case, also 0, 0, 0. So at that particular point, it would it will consider that to be the axis, and it will try to create the revolved section of that curve. Once again, here you can specify the value, what exactly, from 0 to 360 or from 0 to 270. Since it's a line, it just created a sheet over here. And once again, I want the entire curves to be selected. Once again, I can go back here, I can select each and every curve. See, now this is a closed profile, and hence it has created a solid object here. Once again, the boolean works same as that of the extrude. The offset works same as that of the extrude. Again, here you want it to be a solid or a sheet means it will make this hollow. As you can see here, it's hollow over here. So you can see in this preview, you don't want the preview to be displayed, you can switch on and off the previews. this will show the result. This is how the end product would look. Since I selected it to be a sheet, I toggle it back, I select it to be a solid. This would be a solid profile. The OK button, I got a solid. So that's the use of the revolve. So I'll be showing you some of the keyboard shortcuts. So I think these are some of the useful keyboard shortcuts used in UG. You can just have a look at it. Next we'll look about the hole. So the shortcut to orient the particular, say for example this is at an angle, you want to orient it against the XZ plane, just press the F8, it will orient it to that plane. And now I want to create hole, select the hole command, specify the point. You can either go into this sketcher section and select the plane where exactly you want the hole to be, and click OK. And here you can specify the point, select the point option, set where exactly you need the hole. So dimensions are automatically defined. I want it to be 70 and this 20, so 20 by 70. So there are 2 points over here. Now once I click the finish button to try to create a hole at the points, you can even select the type of hole. You want it to be a simple hole, or you want to be a counter bore or a countersunk. You can select the type of hole over here, or you just want to be a tapered hole, and the corresponding dimensions would pop out here. Do you want what is the diameter of that hole? You can specify the diameter of the hole. Specify the depth. Do you want it to go with the set value, or do you want to go through? So throughout the body, to try this body thickness, it will try to cut that particular hole. I want a specified value, and set the value and specify those values accordingly. It would cut the hole to that value. That's the use of this value. Until next, if there is another body over here and I want the hole to proceed till that body, then you can select until next. So that's the use of this until next, or until selected. If there are 2-3 bodies over here and any body you try to select it, it will try to cut the hole till that particular body. That's the use of until selected. As of now, I'll keep as value and I'll specify as 50 mm. Now the depth 2, this is the cylinder bottom, the cone tip. What is the angle that you want? By default it will be 180, that is this angle is 180. According to your requirement, you can change this values. Once again, this is a subtraction operation. Since it's a whole material removal process, so there is a parent material and you're trying to remove material, so this by default it tries to take subtract, let it be subtract, and then select OK, and you get your hole. So that's the use of this hole. Next we go look into this pattern feature. So for pattern feature I need another profile over here. So I'll go into the sketcher and try to create a hole. Click on the finish button. I'm going to remove this, select a single curve, select this, select until next or through. Oops, sorry. This should be boolean should be subtract, and I removed it. Now I want to create the pattern of this feature here. Pattern feature. Select whether you want to be a linear pattern or a circular pattern, polygon, spiral. You have several variants under it. If you have a helical guide spline, so it will try to create patterns over the helical spline along a curve. If there is an arc, there is a reference guide as an arc, so it will try to create the pattern along that particular arc. If there is a spiral path, it will create. If there is a polygon, it will create it. So we select the axis for the circular, it will try to create a pattern. So for example, I select this, select the feature from the sketch. I want to select the feature, select the vector point. This is my vector point. it's creating. I want to create the other way around. I just want to create some 5 features at about 20-degree pitch angle. Let me make this 4. So as you can see, it created a circular pattern. Now I want it to create a linear pattern. Select the linear pattern, select the feature, specify the vector direction. I want it to go along this vector, specify the value, pitch distance, and this is just the one direction. You want to create it both the directions. Select use direction 2 and select the number of pitches, and which is to what do you want to be the second direction. You select the directions here. As you can see here in the preview, it will try to show where it will create the holes. I want to swap the directions. I swap the directions. Click OK. Oops, sorry. You can even select the feature from the tree, path navigator tree. Got a linear. Let me take small values. I want the vector to go this way. I don't want to use a second. Let me do one by one. See, now there are 2 holes. Now I want to create the holes even in the z direction. I would select the feature and I would specify the vector first direction and specify the vector for the second direction. Once again, I need, in this case, I'll take this one as 3 and the pitch distance to be 50, and I need to specify the direction. I want to swap the direction. So as you can see, it has created the profile. This way you can create the patterns. You have several other options, and you want to pull the value from Excel sheet. You can even pull the value, that is the X, Y and Z coordinates. You have to specify in that Excel sheet, and then you can pull that spreadsheet into the pattern creation. Next we'll look into the unite boolean operations. You have unite, subtract and intersection. It is the same thing that you do in the extrude. Here externally you'll be doing, and there will be a object available in the path navigator. Say for example, there are 2 features. So I want to unite these 2 bodies together. I'll select the unite tool. I'll select these 2 bodies, the first and the second body. I'll select OK. As you can see here, these 2 bodies are united. I want to subtract one from the other. I'll select the subtract option. Let me delete this first. Subtract, select this from the other, so the other will be subtracted from this object. Now I want to create an intersection of both. I'll be selecting the first body as well as second body. I'll be creating the intersection of those 2 bodies. That's the use of intersection. Next we'll look into the shell tool. So what it would create is try to remove the material. As you can see, just select the face, so that particular face would be removed. You select the removed face, or you want to retain the face. From the drop down you can select shell all face, so all the faces would be shelled. As you can see, I will take a cut section and I will show you. As you can see here, all the faces are being shelled. So that's the use of the shell lock. You can specify the value of the thickness about which it should be shelled. and you can select the other second face. You want only say for example, once I take the cut section, as you can see all of the faces are shelled to 5 mm, but if you see the vertical face, that alone is going to be shelled to a different value. That is the use of the alternate thickness. So next we'll see about the blends. Under blends you have edge blend and face blend. You see the edge blend, you select the edges, select the value to it, you can give a value as 10 to try to create a blend. Again you have G1 tangency. Do you want the blend to be tangent to these faces? You can give a G1 tangency, or your G2 curvature. The curvature of that reference plane would be followed. That's the use of this G1 tangency and G2 curvature. So keep this as a default, this G1 tangency. And how you want the shape of the fillet to be, should be a circular or a conic section. You can make use of these options. Once again you want a variable radius. I want here at this point, I don't want a constant radius of a blend. I want a varied radius of a blend. You can specify the radius points. So at this point I need a smaller radius, whereas at this point I need a larger radius. Again at this, once again I'll specify another point here, and I need a bit larger radius. Again I specify the third point. Somewhere here I want it to be a smaller radius. In that case it would create a varied fillet, something like this. So that's the use of the varied radius. You can change the radius value along the edge of the object. Next you have a chamfer, same as the edge. You can create chamfers. I want to create a chamfer. Do you want to create chamfer symmetry or asymmetry? That means one side only the changes would happen on a single side, the other side it would remain to the value that you specify. Say for example 10 by 15 it will create. And this one is offset and angle. You specify the length as well as the offset angle to which it should be offsetted. Accordingly you'll be getting the chamfers. That's the use of chamfer. Next, trim body. Now say for example there is a plane over here and I want to trim this body, something like this. Let me draw a curve. I'm going to extrude this curve. I want to trim this particular body against this sheet. I would select trim body, select the body that I want to be trimmed, select the sheet and specify the direction to trim this body. I want the above feature to be trimmed, and now we'll be getting the trimmed body. That's the use of trimmed. The draft. So specify the vector. So this is the draw this would specify the direction, draw direction, and this is the draft reference, that is the face from where you want the draft to happen, and this is the angle 20 degree. So for 20 degree it would try to create the draft. I can select multiple faces as well. Sorry, here you can select multiple faces to get draft on all the faces. So I got a 20 degree draft on each face. So there's a 7 degree draft on each face. So that's the use of the draft. Once again, here you have primitives under the more drop down, so you can explore these tools and see what exactly each and everything does. As of now, let's finish it with the features. In the next video I'll be speaking of the synchronized modeling, then we'll go one by one and see what exactly these options do. So if you like this video, hit the like button and share max. Until then, bye. Santosh Kumar signing off.